Week 12 is here. Sorry that this is a day late. I was just incredibly busy yesterday. So I wasn't able to get this recorded and released. So we're just going to ignore the games that happened yesterday and we're going to have this discussion based. We're not going to take into account the two games that happened yesterday. But other than that, let's just get right into it. Week 11 had some insane things go on. A lot of big teams that we thought were playoff contenders fall. The ACC is an absolute mess. Even the Group of Five contention is a little bit messy still. But I'm gonna tell you what I think what I am predicting for the playoffs, and we will go the same format that we've gone the last couple weeks. And so let's just get right into it. The ACC region, James Madison now takes that number one spot and is also going to be, in my opinion, the Group of Five rep. Virginia taking a key loss to Wake Forest as not doing them any favors. And also East Carolina now hits the top three because Duke also sold. Duke lost against UConn. So now I don't think they're even top three in this region anymore. And of course, James Madison is now leading. Taking a look at the standings, obviously Duke's still sitting there number 4 because they're 5-4, which is not terrible. NC State's right behind. Wake Forest now got their 6th win against Virginia, so now they are officially bowl eligible. But also bowl eligible is Coastal Carolina, so now I have them ranked at the bowl line. I do think that Clemson is going to clutch out that 6-6. I've been going kind of back and forth on that. Right now I'm leaning towards yes, they will get that 6-6. And then everyone else is already bowl eligible. NC State is probably going to get that 6th win pretty soon. And Duke's not too far behind. Moving on to the American region, the top 3 still the same. Pittsburgh at 1. Pittsburgh finally got ranked this week, which they should have been ranked the week before, but they're ranked now. So that's a dub. Navy still at number 2, taking the second loss as expected. And UConn is still at number 3 because they beat Duke. And honestly, that's decently impressive. Taking a look at the rest of the region, I still think this region is by far the weakest, but look at how many 5-win teams we have here. We got, at this point, I think Rutgers will be able to squeak out a 6-6. Honestly, that decider is going to be Rutgers versus Penn State, which I think if you were to tell me that at the beginning of the season, people would think, oh, Penn State's going to beat the fuck out of Rutgers. But Rutgers honestly has a decent chance of beating Penn State. And Penn State is only that one loss away from bowl ineligibility. West Virginia's kind of in the same boat. Army, major rise from last week. So now they're up more towards the middle instead of being towards the bottom, which is good to see. Syracuse, now officially bowl ineligible. And honestly, a lot of these 5-win teams, I don't see them getting their last win. I think they're going to struggle to get there. But Rutgers, I think, will be able to get that 6-6. The rest of them, not so sure. And then obviously our top 3 are all 7-win teams. Pittsburgh, I honestly think, has a decent chance of winning the ACC, and that'd be super interesting, as I think Pittsburgh is a playoff team, and there's a chance they will be the sole ACC rep, which would be crazy, because now Virginia has eliminated themselves, another team we're going to talk about in a second has eliminated themselves, and then there's Georgia Tech, who dropped the ball against NC State, and so now I'm significantly less confident in their ability to play football. Moving on to the Big 12, the top 3 is still the same. A&M 1, Texas 2, Oklahoma 3. Not much to discuss about this top 3 here. But at this point, you may have noticed North Texas is no longer a playoff pick for me. And that's because, as I said before, James Madison is my new Group of 5 pick. Obviously, North Texas is still going to get a bowl because they are 8-1. TCU has fallen down the ranks quite a bit because they're just not, I don't see TCU honestly getting a win the rest of the season. I think they'll go 6-6 at the end. Baylor is 5-4, but they're struggling I think they'll struggle to get that 6th win, if at all. Right now I'm leaning towards no. Rice, I also don't think will be able to get that last win either. And Texas State constantly just taking L after L, and so they're going to keep falling down the ranks. I do have Tulsa ranked below Oklahoma State right now, just because Tulsa's not looking good at all. And once again, they have now entered bowl ineligibility. And so now we got, obviously A&M is going to be the rep. They're undefeated still. They're probably winning the SEC. It's crazy that there's so many 7+ wins in this conference. And then a lot of just really bad teams like Arkansas and Tulsa, Oklahoma State, and then obviously Sam Houston getting their first win against Oregon State. That game was genuinely one of the worst games of football I've ever seen in my goddamn life. Moving on to the Big Ten region, Indiana still holding it strong at number 1, but honestly, everybody like right below Indiana had a tough week. So like Missouri took an L. Iowa, who was at the top 3 last week, is no longer in the top 3 because they took an L. Illinois is now taking that 3rd spot once again, but this isn't really a competition. Indiana's far better than anybody else in this region. Like even just taking a look at the standings, but there are a lot of bowl teams in this region. You got obviously our top 3. We got Iowa right behind them. Nebraska with 7-3. Iowa State getting their 6th win. Minnesota now having 6 wins. Kansas State, I still think will pull out a 6-6. It's going to be close, but I think that Kansas State's going to be able to do it. And I'm less confident in Northwestern and Kansas getting that 6th win. I want Missouri State to go to a bowl so badly, but sadly, due to FBS rules, Missouri State will not be able to go to a bowl this season, as this is their first year in FBS. Hopefully next year, because Missouri State is honestly looking pretty solid, despite the fact of how low I have them ranked. They're having a pretty solid season. And then obviously NIU is now bowl ineligible. Wisconsin is not too far behind. Honestly, I thought this was Wisconsin's week to lose. They somehow pull up a win against Washington, which is why I have them ranked above Missouri State. But I wouldn't be surprised if they get that 7th loss real quick coming up soon. Moving on to Conference USA. Surprisingly, this looks about what it was a couple weeks ago. Vanderbilt number 1, Cincinnati number 2, Louisville number 3. And that's because Louisville lost against Cal in overtime. They were looking to be a playoff contender. At this point, I think they killed their chances. And Vanderbilt's back. Vanderbilt got a key win this week. And so now they only have 2 losses, but a 2-loss SEC team doesn't mean you're out just yet. And looking at the standings, this went from an incredibly playoff competitive conference to now there's no team that has less than 2 losses. So now Vanderbilt leads, being 8-2. Cincinnati 7-2, Louisville 7-2 as well. Western Kentucky is the bowl line at 7-2, but they're like a mediocre team at best. Ohio got their 6th win. Yay, good job Ohio. So now you're going to join the bowl line group. Kentucky got a really good win this last week. And so now they're not looking as bad as everyone thought they were. There's a very slim chance they'll be able to squeak out 6 wins. But in my opinion, I don't think that's going to happen. Obviously, a lot of anybody below Kentucky is pretty much cooked. Arkansas State might be able to squeak out that 6th win, but I kind of doubt it. And then Memphis demolished their playoff chances by losing to Tulane. So now, I didn't think they were the Group of 5 pick before. I don't think they are now. The committee finally gets to shut up about Memphis as they finally took that 2nd loss. And I think Vanderbilt is back in the discussion. So, justice for Vanderbilt, man. Moving on to the MAC region. This top 3 shouldn't be a surprise. Ohio State 1, Notre Dame 2, Michigan 3. However, I think now is the time that we can predict Notre Dame to be a playoff team. As much as I don't like it, as much as I don't like the fact that the AP polls had Notre Dame in the top 25 being 0-2. But at this point, they've proven themselves, and that I think that Notre Dame is a top 12 team. The fact that we can have 2 at-large picks now because James Madison is a region leader means Notre Dame is now in the playoff discussion. Obviously, there's still Miami University and Western Michigan, who are likely to get that 6th win. I'm significantly less confident in Toledo and Central Michigan, as I don't think they will be able to get that 6th win, evident by where I place the bowl line. And Kent State is only 1 loss away from that bowl ineligibility. I'm honestly surprised that they've hung on for this long. And I would say the same about Akron if they weren't already academically ineligible. And then there's Michigan State, who their 7th loss is just inevitable. We're just waiting for it to happen. But the MAC region, surprisingly, with how weak this bottom half is, honestly how weak everything below Western Michigan is probably going to have 2 playoff teams because Notre Dame is just that strong now at this point. Moving on to the Mountain West region, Texas Tech and BYU played this week. Texas Tech came out on top, so now I think it's only fair that Texas Tech is now the region leader. BYU is still really strong though, so they're staying at number 2, and Utah is holding strong at number 3. This region is once again very top heavy. Got 9-1 Texas Tech on top, BYU right behind it at 8-1, and then the 7-2 teams, Utah, UNLV for being 7-2 is not all that good. And I did check Utah State's schedule. I think they're not going to be able to get out a last win this season, unfortunately. Colorado State, and UTEP are all bowl ineligible now, so their seasons are over. Arizona finally getting into bowl eligibility, and yeah, so really what I'm saying about this region is that anybody who isn't bowl eligible already is not going to be. I think the rest of these teams are likely to get a 7th loss coming up here soon, especially Air Force and New Mexico State. They are most likely to get that 7th loss in the next couple of weeks, and so then we're going to see the fall of more teams in the Mountain West region. But Tech now likely to win out of the real-life Big 12. There's a chance that Texas Tech BYU, that game will happen again, and it's going to be hopefully not as much of a blowout as his last time, but more than likely Tech is going to win both the real-life Big 12 and the Mountain West region. Moving on to the Pac-12, this top 3 is still the same. The only reason Washington has not left that top 3 spot despite a really bad loss to Wisconsin is that San Diego State lost as well. And Oregon did almost lose to Iowa, but they clutched it out, so they're still on top. Because the moment Oregon slips up, USC is going to be there to take that spot. USC has been climbing up the ranks as they're now... There's a lot of really high-win teams in the Pac-12 region. Like Oregon, 8-1, USC, SDSU, and Hawaii all have 7 wins each. 6 wins for Washington, Boise State, Cal, and Fresno. The thing is that the top half, like everybody in the bowl line, is honestly a very good team. But the other issue is that everybody below the bowl line is complete garbage. Like UCLA, still predicting they're not going to get another win this season. Stanford, now bowl ineligible. Oregon State, suffering the worst loss that I've seen potentially in all of football. And obviously, the fact that Oregon State isn't the worst team in this region just really shows how bad Nevada is. Like, Oregon State and Nevada are really, really bad. And even, like, UCLA, Wazoo, San Jose State, and Stanford, they're not good teams at all either. And so really, it's everybody Fresno and better that are honestly pretty decent teams. I do think that Oregon is going to be the one representing the region for the playoff spot, but if they manage to fumble a loss, like honestly the Oregon and USC game is very, very important for playoff implications. And so with that, we're going to have to move on to the next region. The SEC region, Tulane takes that 3 spot once again from LSU. Bama and Ole Miss still going to be playoff teams. Tulane was able to clutch out a win and shut up anybody who was talking about Memphis. Thank God. And so yeah, Tulane up here at number 3. LSU now drops to 4 once again. Southern Miss still looking strong. And we now enter Jacksonville State has now entered bowl eligibility. So now they're up there. I do think they're a better team than Troy at this point, who is still bowl eligible, but like they're not. They're definitely, to me, Troy is definitely the worst bowl eligible team right now. And Mississippi State, they're 5-5 right now, but the rest of their schedule really, really tough. Louisiana Tech, I also don't think will be clutching out that 6th win, even though it's technically possible. I don't see it happening. And I do have UL Monroe on the bottom below South Alabama, just because I think the odds of South Alabama getting a win are much higher than UL Monroe. UL Monroe is not a good team at all. UAB and Louisiana are also on the edge of becoming bowl ineligible. Auburn's right there with them. Despite all the talk in the preseason about Auburn, Auburn has been incredibly disappointing, and so now they're down here in the lower parts of the SEC region. And then finally, we got the Sun Belt region. Same three: Georgia 1, Georgia Tech 2, Miami 3. There's not much to discuss about these top three, other than the fact that Georgia is 100% going to the playoffs. Georgia Tech has a chance. They have a chance if they win out the ACC, but other than that, I think they're cooked. But what's crazy about this region is how many common records there are. 8-1, Georgia Tech. 7-2, Miami, USF, and Kennesaw State. And then there's the 4-5s, Florida State, UCF, FAU, Georgia Southern, and FIU, all 4-5. And then we got the Florida Gators sitting there in the middle, 3-6, one loss away from that bowl ineligibility. They lost badly to Kentucky, so that really took like a big dent in their resume. I had Kennesaw State up there last week, and it just proved more that Kennesaw State was the better team based on the games that happened this last week. Obviously, Georgia State's still sitting there at the bottom because they're especially garbage. But the fact that there's so many 4-5 teams I find is really entertaining in the Florida-Georgia region. Now, moving on to the promotion and relegation leagues. There are a couple changes. There aren't too many, but there's a couple to note. For one, Miami is now looking like to be the team to jump up to the Big Ten, taking that spot from Missouri, as Miami was able to get a win and Missouri was not. Big 12, we got a change in both the rise and drop, as we have Vanderbilt now taking the spot to rise to the SEC from Louisville. And the drop, Baylor is no longer in the drop section, and Florida is there once again. And looking at the ACC rises, we got James Madison now taking Washington's spot. James Madison is now looking to rise to the Big 12. And then in the Pac-12, we got a change to both a rise and a drop, where we have UConn taking the place of Kansas to likely go out of the Pac-12 to the ACC, and Wazoo to likely fall from the Pac-12 to the American. And now we got, let's see, what else we got changed? Oh, the Mountain West. The Mountain West, we got Wake Forest now in the rise. And in the MAC, we got Troy now on the rise once again, and UL Monroe now on the fall to Conference USA. And then in Conference USA, the only change we have is the drop, where now UTEP is a potential drop to Independent. And as for the Independents and the FCS, these are the same. Southern Miss, Kennesaw State, and Missouri State, all 6 wins at least. So they're likely to go to Conference USA, whereas Delaware, Kent State, and UMass likely to drop to FCS. And the teams that are leading the FCS are still the same. We got North Dakota State, Montana, and Lehigh. They're all still undefeated, and I wouldn't be surprised if these are the 3 best teams in the FCS right now, and we'll have them move up to FBS Independent next year. Of course, this is all theoretical, and none of it's really real, and it will make for very interesting discussions next year when we discuss the what-if scenarios of what if these teams actually moved up to the FBS level, and how well would they perform? They may be like Missouri State and perform surprisingly well. We'll just have to find out. But anyways, thank you for watching this week's Yap session, and we will see you next week.